I would never presume to be able to speak for all horror fans. I'm not the voice of the voiceless like our friend CM Punk so blatantly is. But I can say for me, when I witnessed Corey Feldman introduced into the Friday the 13th, the final chapter film, and then later on when Danielle Harris played Jamie Lloyd so superbly when Michael Myers returned to Haddonfield in Halloween 4, I really felt like they raised the stakes tremendously by injecting a child into such peril, facing down such evil. And then I watched Evil Dead Rise, and the Deadites basically looked at Jason and Michael and said, "Hold my cheese grater." Didn't know what to expect going into this one. Blown away by the 2013 remake. I thought it was tremendous. They did a great job with it, and I was excited to sit down with a movie that I really thought I would never watch. And on top of that, obviously with Army of Darkness, we went back to medieval times.
This is medieval times!
He did it better than I did. But the other three films, Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, and then the 2013 edition, all took place in a cabin out in the woods. Same sort of story. And imagine my excitement when I found out that this movie was going to be moving to Los Angeles, California, and we were going to get a whole new sort of iteration of this story that they were trying to tell us about these evil books of the dead. And am I right? Are we getting 3 like Army of Darkness showed us? Is this one in this film completely different than the one from 2013? Now we're sort of out in the wilderness when we do start this one off. We see a triangle-shaped, funky-looking cabin with a girl laying sick on the bed, a concerned friend, and a jerk-off boyfriend. So I didn't know if this was going to be the cast that we started off the film with, but this is how we were starting off the film. And this girl, who does not feel well, it turns out she is possessed by a Deadite. And as you know, as you've seen in the movies past, they're not friendly when they're in a bad, foul mood. And the friend is twisting her hair, messing with it, fidgeting with her ponytail, and her Deadite friend fixes that in a very grotesque, very gory, and very abrupt way before the boyfriend is dispatched. There is a great scene, a beautiful dock, a gorgeous lake, and then this Deadite young lady rises from the lake as the title card rises up with her. The visual was fantastic, and the best way to hook an audience is with a killer cold open. Then we go back a day in time. We wind up at a punk rock club where we see a girl. She's peeing on a pregnancy test in a bathroom with a guy pounding on the door, and she does not look like she likes what she sees. And then we cut away from that, and we find ourselves in the big city, and we find ourselves in a high-rise building with a mother, played by Alyssa Sutherland, I believe her name is. She's a tattoo artist, and she's got 3 kids. Danny looks to be the oldest, I believe. Then there's Bridget, and then there is the adorable Cassie, who we know and love as Holly Wheeler from Stranger Things Season 5, and immediately you're uncomfortable because this is a little girl. And if you don't know, Evil Dead is a notch or 2 above any of the average run-of-the-mill horror films you're liable to see a child in. Now, the dad's out of the picture here, and the family, even though it doesn't look like they have much, or it doesn't look like they're in a really good financial standing, the building they live in is about to be condemned or closed down in a month, and they really don't know what their plan is. All that aside, and they're all very weird, different personalities. Danny is sort of a DJ. He's very into his music. Cassie is cutting the heads off dolls and making weapons, which I thought was really funny. And then there is the sort of everything offends me type that Bridget is. She's planning her next protest. She's got all these things going on. All those colorful details of this family aside, they all look like they really love one another. And because you see that so early, it's perfect horror movie formula. It gets you attached to these characters, so when whatever inevitably happens to them, it hurts that much more. And as you watch this family and the tenderness and the fact that the brothers and the sisters, they seem to like being around one another, and they seem to want to look out for each other, it's that much more effective as you watch it in front of your eyes, because there's way too many people to make it all the way through the end of a horror film. Now, the girl we saw peeing on the pregnancy test in the punk rock club, her name is Beth, and Beth is actually sister to Ellie and aunt to all the little kids. Now, she winds up showing up at the apartment for a visit, and Ellie kind of knows her sister. She knows something's going on. There's only a few times where she comes around or even makes contact, and that's when something serious is going on in her life. So her radar is up already. And then Ellie sends her 3 kids to go get pizza. Danny's the driver. Danny takes the car out. They go get some dinner for the evening. And when they come back with the food, there's an earthquake that hits. And in doing this, it jostles free a big chunk of concrete, and being an adventurer, Danny goes to look down in there, because what would a horror movie be without somebody who's just a little too curious for their own good? When he looks down there, he sees an old vault. So naturally, he climbs below the parking garage structure, in through the busted up concrete, and goes to investigate. Now, down there, he doesn't find any riches, any jewels, anything that would help the family, but what he does find is a bunch of old LPs and a wrapped up book. And here we go. So the kid brings it back upstairs, takes it to his room, and frantic, because Ellie's trying to figure out a way, because her car is gone, the kids have it, she's trying to figure out a way to find out if her kids are okay after this earthquake. And she is just asking the neighbors, and the neighbors are all really good people, so they're all going to pitch in, they're all going to try to help right when the kids come up the elevator and back into their mother's loving arms. And I dug the phrase, because Cassie, I believe it was Cassie, was upset that they dropped the pizza. And the mom says, "I love you guys so much more than pizza." And it's a small line, but it really drives home the point that these people are important to one another. And it's a different aspect to the Evil Dead lineage. This is so different from anything they've done before. Now, this is definitely a different book. Everything about this book is different. This one's got teeth, and initially it won't open, and then eventually Danny, trying to open it in his bedroom with nobody else knowing he has this thing, he pricks his finger on the teeth, the blood trickles on top of the book, and it absorbs into that nasty binding, that nasty skin that this book is wrapped in. And with those drops of blood, book opens right up. Now, the older sister is not a fan of any of this. She instructs this kid, get rid of this book first thing in the morning. I personally think they should have thrown the fucking thing out the window, but that's hindsight being 2020. And in the midst of this, Cassie's just doing her thing out there, being completely adorable. I mean, she is awesome in this movie. And I can honestly tell you, if a situation came up to where something happened to her, I was going to kick my TV in. And I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but I was ready to do that. And I love my TV. But of course, Danny decides he has to play these records. Him being a DJ and all, you have to know what you have. Maybe he's got something to put on the turntable to just light the whole block up. Not the case. Not the case at all, because when he plays it, he gets a bunch of scholarly mumbo-jumbo about the book, about the demons, about all of it, about there being 3 books out there. And of course, the person on this record recites the words to wake the demons. And the demon is racing through the streets, much like it raced through the woods in all of the movies prior to. So again, the setting being different makes this interesting, it makes it fun, and it makes it something we haven't seen before. And then the demon gets to the building, bursts through the doors, pins the mother to the elevator she's trying to come down. Now, this is a very clever sort of thing they did here, because when the kids come up on the elevator after the earthquake, the mother chastises them for using an elevator right after an earthquake. And she decides when she's doing her laundry, she's not going to take the stairs. She's going to go ahead and take the elevator, completely foregoing everything she just gave her kids a hard time for. And if she hadn't taken the elevator, maybe she doesn't run face first into this demon. But as it is, the demon takes her, pins her into the elevator, sort of uses the cables to string her up. Then there's a blackout in the house. The next time they see Ellie, Ellie comes back upstairs, decides she wants to make some eggs in a really weird, very uncomfortable scene.
It was the perfect day, and all I could think about was how much I wanted to cut you all open and climb inside your body so that we could stay one happy family.
And then she decides she's going to throw up everywhere before she looks at Beth and says, "Don't let him take my babies." And from that point on, these kids that we love, these kids that we get attached to in a short amount of time, they're in the worst kind of peril. And through this initial attack that this Deadite version of Ellie sort of puts these people through, they wind up getting out into the hallway. Elevator's fucked. The stairs are completely gone. So they wind up going to the helpful neighbor's place. Now, I know the bathtub scene was something that was in the trailers and was very prevalent in those trailers, but I cannot illustrate to you how effective and how creepy it genuinely is, because she's burning up at this point, Ellie is, and they still think, of course, that she's sick or there's something wrong with her that they can eventually cure. So she's burning up. They put her in a bathtub and the water starts boiling. And she freaks out. She climbs up on the wall and she just literally roars at them. And then when she collapses into the tub and the kids say, "Mommy," and she looks at them and says, "Mommy's with the maggots now." Dude, get out of that house immediately.
Mommy's with the maggots now.
One of the biggest complaints, and obviously it's going to be a constant complaint in a horror film, because if you don't have dumb characters that find themselves in a bad way, you don't really have much of a horror film. I have no idea why they stuck around as long as they did. Something that I thought was one of the better shots and one of the coolest sequences in the movie was when Beth was looking out at Deadite Ellie, because they've got her out in the hallway and they finally locked her out and they've barricaded themselves in the apartment, so you think they're okay. And of course they're not okay, because earlier Ellie attacked her daughter Bridget with a tattoo gun, and you just never know when some of that possession or some of that evil is seeped into the next person. So Ellie's out in the hallway and Beth looking on through the peephole, and Ellie is taking everybody out. I mean, some of the scenes are very gruesome, some of it's very intense, but it's very effective and it's very unique, and it's a cool way of doing it. And when Cassie gets up there to look out at her mom, because this is still her mom. This little girl is young. I bet she's maybe 10 years old. That's still mom to her. And she sees her sitting out in the hallway, singing her a song that she is all too familiar with, assuring her that everything is going to be okay. All you have to do is open the door to let mom in. And I give Cassie a pass because she's a kid. She's allowed to be stupid every once in a while. And she is very dumb and unlocks the door and gets a chokehold by her mother for her efforts. In the meantime, Danny's showing Beth the book, and Beth is trying to listen to the records to see if she can figure out a way to put this whole thing to rest and just get out of this thing alive with her niece and her nephew in tow. Bridget, during this time, is starting to turn, and she's chewing on glass in the kitchen. It's all very unsettling. Cassie has to spear Bridget through the mouth. I mean, I guess this came out in 2023, so I really shouldn't say too much about what unfolds, but I thought Cassie looking at Beth and saying, "Is what happened to Mommy and Bridget going to happen to us?" And I love the dynamic of it, because the story here is Beth is pregnant, and apparently this has happened before. Apparently Beth has had abortions before. It's something these evil demons know about and they use against her. It's very vicious what they say to her, but it's par for the course with these types of films. That motherly instinct in Beth sort of comes out when it comes to Cassie, because eventually it's just Beth and Cassie, and we've got brutality. I mean, just some of the scenes. Danny winds up being the one that gets the blood vomit thrown up all over his face. That's what turns him into a Deadite. We get this gnarly spider-like thing. I'm going to watch the spoilers, okay? I'm going to take it easy, but I can tell you this. Having Cassie part of this, as they try to get out of this building, keep in mind, elevator's busted. Okay, the fire escape is in a condemned building, a condemned part of the building, a condemned apartment. They can't get to it. The stairs are completely gone. So everything seems so futile. And we've got more Deadites at the climax of this film than I've ever seen before. Short of Army of Darkness, of course. But Cassie being involved in that, it makes it uncomfortable. And Beth gets a chance to be a solid final girl. Again, no spoilers, but I will say there's a part where Cassie gets snatched just when you think they're about to make it out scot-free, and your heart just completely sinks. And then we get to the end and they tie it all back to how it started with the cold open. I just thought they did a beautiful job here. I'm very excited for Evil Dead Burn. And I never would have said that a month ago. Because honestly, the first two Evil Deads were really misses for me. Army of Darkness was fun. But with Evil Dead 2013 and now Evil Dead Rise, I'm really excited to see, because I don't usually like the gore fest, and we talked about why I don't like possession movies, but these are really solid horror films, and some of the stories they're giving us and some of the lore, it's really, it's fun. It's not, it's just can't miss type of stuff. I mean, I'm really excited, and I don't go to the theaters very often because I think they're overpriced, but I'm really excited to go and see this movie and talk about what they do with it, where they take the story, because the idea that this doesn't have to be the same group of people every single film. And now the idea that there's 3 books out there, they could go any kind of way they want to with this movie. So this ages gracefully. I'm going to say it's a notch below the 2013, but very thin margin. So this is a 7.5 out of 10. This definitely is something worth watching over and over and over again, because that's what we do with a good horror film. We put it on whenever we want to be scared. And this shit right here is scary. So yeah, Evil Dead Rise, absolute banger. Go check it out. Let me know what you think of that film. Let me know what you think of anything I talk about Evil Dead. I know a lot of people love the originals, and I'm really kind of down on those. Different strokes, different folks, guys. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. It's just not for me. These new ones, though, that's my bag. So let's talk about that. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video if you like the video. And come back here and let's have some fun with some horror movies. Until then, let's see you guys in the theater for Evil Dead Burn and on the other side.